Hey, Karanja James again. I have some quick tips that I have to give to any salesperson who is there, to any business person who is there, to any entrepreneur who is there. There have some been mistakes people have been asking me to highlight because everyone is doing something wrong. Before you do something right, you have to do it 10 times wrong. Understand this, before you get it right. Most of us, because of we have been brought from a negative perspective, there are some mistakes you have to do. And for you to do something perfectly, it said you should do it 10 times, 9 times wrongly for you to get this one time good. For you to get a good customer, you have to get 9 bad customers and get 1 good customer. So this I'm going to give them very quickly because time is not on our side, guys. Time is not on our side. Number 1, people mistake is they don't show up. You have planned your day that between 9 and 5 p.m. I'm going to call people. I'm going to call this client. I'm going to call this client. I'm going to attend this meeting. I'm going to develop my skills. I'm going to have to motivate myself. But you set things that you want to do, but you don't show up for your own self meeting. If you don't show up for your own self meeting, you not show up for another person's meeting. You are not going to show up for that appointment with your mentor. You're not going to show up. So one mistake people do, they don't show up. They don't show up for their goals. They don't show up for their appointment. If you don't show up for your clients is not going to show up. Make sure that you get this right. Don't have a mistake of not showing up. Make sure you have show up. So number 2, you have to develop your skills. You have to develop your skills. You're not going to be a driver by watching other people drive. You have to experience that. You're not going to know how to swim unless you put yourself in a pool of water and you drown 1 or 2, then you know how to make sure that you fly in the waters. You are not going to be a very good boxer unless you put yourself in that situation that you have been knocked 1, 2 times, and so that you can be able to know how to swing, how to evade these kicks that are coming from anywhere. So you have to make sure that you have the skills. Number 1 skill I usually recommend very fast is you have to have personal development. Develop your skills. Number 1 skill that you have to develop is communication skills. That's number 1 skill that you have to develop. Make sure you have all the skills. When you have communication skills, you know how to close, you know how to talk to people. You are going to be a very good president. Number 3, you have to adjust your taste. You have to I can tell you have to copy, edit and paste. So if you see someone is doing something good and he has some results, so you just copy his ways of doing it, just put it into a perspective, just put it in your way, because you can speak the way I'm speaking, but you can never speak like me. So but you can always just to take one thing yourself right there and there and make sure you're able to do that. So make sure you're able to copy, paste and edit. So don't you give yourself some excuses and procrastination. If you give your excuse, it's going not to happen. Let me tell you one thing. People don't do things because they don't value those things. So if you had called someone for a meeting and he did not show up, know that that person doesn't value your meeting. If he valued your meeting, I usually say, if someone told you that you're going to have 1 million shillings or $1 million and he called you to go at the corner top of the country, the farthest point of your country, and he tells you so and so, kindly pack your things and come, I have 1 million Kenyan shillings, I have $1 million, come for them right now. That guy's going to pack everything. He's going to leave his job and he's going to run to that money. So if you call someone for a meeting and does not show up, it means that person does not value what you're telling them. So if he does not value what you're telling them, make sure you give them the value. And if that value is not enough for them, leave that person. So make sure you have to create value so people they are going not to give you excuses. Don't give yourself excuses. Don't live in fear. False expectation appearing real. Don't live in fear. Don't live in fear. Don't fear any person, even if he has a name he has an added name. People have to fear because someone is a police. So what? Someone is a superintendent. I don't care. Someone is a CEO. So what? He takes a shit just like I do. He goes to the toilet just like I do. You see a very good girl, a very girl, a beautiful girl, and that girl gives you butterflies. You know, and maybe you have already decided that you want to speak to a girl. Why? That girl takes a shit like everybody else. That girl feels pains like everybody else. You see, someone is called a minister, a member of parliament. So what? That guy takes a shit like anybody else. So don't fear that person, Banner. Have that courage. You should not fear them. If you want to speak to a person, the only two things he can do to you, he can either take your knowledge, take your time or listen to you, or he can always reject you. Two things. He's not going to kill you. No, just do it. Don't fear anybody. When you know that person has blood like you have, just remove that fear in your head. Just put your points in your mind to what you have to do. So don't have these mistakes. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So make sure you are there when you are needed. Burn bridges. Remove everything that you want to have in life. Burn bridges. Be you. Doesn't care what happens to anyone. Just be you. Always show up. Always show up like you have never showed up in your lifetime, man. Always show up. And nobody is too serious. Nobody is too what do we call it? Nobody is too busy. It's because they have not found value in you. So I shall say, if you find that you have poor people doing something, avoid it like plague. That's what it said. Avoid poor people's ways. Actually, the poor is the masses. If you have friends who sleep until 11 a.m., leave them. Actually, most of the rich people have read about, they wake up at 5 a.m. So what are you doing sleeping? Wake up. You have to make sure you have to trust your gut. There was someone I was talking to, and he told me before he built this life for himself, he had to lose everything. He had to lose everything. He took everything that he owned. He went to the bank, withdrew all the money that he had. He gave it away. From there, his mind started working. Some of us don't work hard because we know our banks have some 4 or 5 figures and you can live freely. So when you sit back and you have a problem that you have to solve, and you remember that you have 100,000 in your bank account, you have in your e-wallet, you have 50,000, and you don't have much expenses, your brain always go to sleep. Most of us, that's how we are wired. But whenever you put your brain to the last test of your life, it's going to look for a way out. In times of fear, that's when our adrenaline raises up. And you find when you have been when you're in a fearsome situation, sometimes you find that you have done something. Like there was a guy I was talking to. He told me he went to a place where there was dark, and he had some dogs barking, and those dogs came running after him. That guy jumped over a wall that naturally he could not jump the wall. So what happened? His brain told him you are in a danger, and the adrenaline from his body gave him a chance to run for his life. He thought his life was going to end, but what happened, guys? His adrenaline produced miraculous activities. So he ran for his life. He jumped a very high wall that naturally, even if you gave him 10,000, he could not jump that wall. So when you push your mind to that extinct place, it's going to give you ways that you cannot imagine. So don't have that mistake of living in comfort zone. It said comfort zone is a very good place, but nothing grows there. Make sure you push yourself to the limit. If the rain has started beating on you, let it beat on you very good. If you're going through hell, go through hell like a man. I usually say man up, you're a man. If you're a man, man up. If something does not take your life away, just go through it. There are people who have gone through it and they have become victorious. You are not an excuse, and you don't have an excuse not to go through it, because people have gone through it. People who are like you, people who had eyes like you, people who had teeth like you, people who are just like you had gone through it, and you can also go through it. Make sure you use your time management. Time management is key. You can always have money, This stuff, you can always have this stuff. Lots of it, you can always have this stuff. Lots of it, you can lose it, you can get it, you can always have money. Now and then, you can always have money, much money. And you can always lose this stuff. You can have money in the world, there's an abundance of money in the world, but you can always lose it. But time, when you have time and you don't use it very wisely, you lose it for good. I have a habit of, if I come across someone who is 60, 70 years old, I have this habit of talking to them. I find sometimes back I found this, it was somewhere at a roundabout, I found this old man. He was around 70s. He looked homeless. He was confused about his life. I talked to him. I saw so and so. Hi, how have you been? My name is so and so. I would like to talk to you about something that is deep in my heart. So I talked to him and I told him I have only one question. One question. And when you answer that question, I'll be out of this place. And he told me, just go on, ask the question. I asked him, I want you to give me one regret that you have in life. Just one regret. That guy started looking at me. I could notice his face, his emotion. I touched a live wire in him. I woke up some demons inside his head, inside his heart. That guy could see his tears, though the tear never rolled out, but I saw the tears in the eyes. And he looked me right in my face and he told me, my son, you know what? When you are young, you always have very limited time. I remember when I was young, I remember when my parents took me to primary school. I remember there's a time I started life, but I got this bad company who introduced me to drugs. They introduced me to marijuana. They introduced me to alcohol, and my life drifted. I lost my family. I lost my kids. I lost my mother. I lost my family. I lost my siblings. I lost my relative. And right now, I'm 70 years old and I'm homeless. I sleep at the roadside of the road. I live by the masses of people. So he told me, my son, listen very carefully. Listen this and it's going to assist you for the rest of your life. He told me the only thing I regret in life is because I wasted my youthful years. I wasted my time. So he told me, my son, make sure you don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. Don't waste your time, because whenever you waste a day, it's gone and it's gone forever. So that's the best advice I've gotten from someone who's going through hell. So I would wish for you, whenever you are young, if you are below that, if you are below 20, if you are below 40, just remember there's a day that you're going to be 8 years old. You're not going to be able to have the vision that you have. The energy that you have right now, you're not going to have that energy. So you need to act right now. What you're going to do right now is going to take care of you when you grow old. Let me remind you, your children are not your investment. They have things they have to do. So don't invest everything for your kids. Invest in yourself for the next 50, 70 years to come. So I would wish for you this: don't waste your time. Don't waste your time. There's a time you'll be old. Good day.